welcome back to my channel. Today's topic, or it's going to be another story time actually, is going to be about friendship. Warning you already, I'm going to be sweating a lot because it is 30 degrees in London. This room is literally where the sun hits and I can't use a fan because it will be noisy, so just don't think there's something wrong with me. There isn't. I'm just gonna be really hot. Right, so I've lost my voice a little bit as well, just because it was my birthday this weekend and I did a girls trip with my cousins and my friends, and we were very loud and we screamed and danced and shouted and sang and whatnot, so yeah, my voice has gone a bit. So many of you keep asking me about it, and so many of you, ever since I started doing these story times, were like, oh my god, can you please talk about friendships, can you please talk about friendship? But it never felt right, just because I always felt like people who do follow me on social media probably have their own opinions about me and friends, just because there are, you know, over the decade of me being on social media, I've always posted my friends, you know, on my grid. I would write these huge captions. I would, like, you know, constantly, you know, basically put them on this pedestal and be like, oh my god, my best friend, my best friend. And then the moment I don't post much about them, people will be like, what happened between you guys? Or if we unfollow each other, it's like, what happened between you guys? And I'm not here to talk about, oh my god, I'm a victim and this happened to me, that happened to me, and this person's fault, that person's fault. That's not what this video is going to be about. I'm going to be talking about personal experiences of what I think friendship should be. I really hope that this video is just going to help a lot of people, especially women who struggle with either making friends at, you know, such a late stage in life, or struggling with forgiving friends, or you know, constantly feeling betrayed all the time, or something. So that's what this video is going to be about, and please don't judge me if I contradict myself sometimes. I know I've done so many story times, and somewhere here and there I've said a few things about friendships and stuff, and then I don't want people to be like, but you said this in that video, why are you saying this? Listen, I'm allowed to change my mind, okay? I think that's the whole beauty of maturing and having certain experiences. You know, from now till next week something could happen and that could change my mind about friendships, or just any aspect of topic that I sort of talk about. So I've done my hair, I've got them in rollers, and I'm just going to do the makeup and talk to you guys about it. Okay, let's start off with childhood friends, okay? Now, I come from a different generation. You know, I was a refugee, as you probably all know. So making friendships during childhood was really difficult for me because of the language barrier. We lived in Germany, so it was really hard. However, I remember having 3 friends during kindergarten and primary school, and one of them I'm still really good friends with. But you know, as much as that's absolutely beautiful, and you know, I'm so grateful for still having that friendship, but there were many times throughout all these years where we have fallen out, we've not spoken for a few years, or not properly for a few years, and then we kind of rekindled, and one of the main reasons is not because both of our personality had changed, it was life. You know, like, we both moved to different countries, we both went to different universities, we both got married, she has kids, I don't. You know, my career was different, her career was different. It was just so many things that have happened, you know, in these 40 years, that I feel like only now we're both able to actually finally feel like we really understand each other and we really respect each other's sort of like lifestyles and you know, choices that we've made and priorities. And for her, it's always going to be, you know, naturally like her children or her family, or you know, anything to do with the children basically. And I've learned you know, over time to completely understand and empathize with it, and I think that's really important. So sometimes it is sad that when you make friends during childhood, that it changes, that you're not friends with that person anymore, even though you have such beautiful memories, but then you're like, oh, you know, we fell out, or we stopped speaking, or we grew apart. And that's normal. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean that when you, I mean, I get like that as well when I see people actually having more than one childhood friend. I am envious, you know. I do look at them and I'm just like, oh, you know, I wish I had that, or that's really nice. But I know, due to my life circumstances at that time, I became friends with a Tamil girl, because even though we both never really spoke in Tamil together, but I think because of the cultural sort of similarities, we just kind of attached to each other quite easily, and we're friends to this day. We've been friends for 34 years, and but that's different, you know. So I feel like if you don't have any childhood friends, that's okay. But if you do have childhood friends and you feel like you could rekindle with them, then you should, because I think it's a beautiful thing. And I also feel like when you are childhood friends, or you've known each other since childhood, it's so easy to connect again and trust each other again, because you've grown together. But then at the same time, you might have childhood friends that you've had very, very big problems with, and you just absolutely can't ever be friends with them. Then the only thing I would probably suggest is learn to forgive them and learn to forgive yourself, because that kind of you know, that kind of trauma, or that kind of, those negative feelings, carrying that around means that it will stop you from making new friends. And maybe that's why you've struggled in your sort of 20s or 30s, or just in your adult sort of life, to make new friends, because something's holding you back from the kind of memories that you've made from childhood. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Obviously, if you're a mom watching this and you have very young children, I would definitely encourage them to have friends, to, you know, have play dates, sleepovers, whatever it is. I think, you know, kids learn so much and pick up on so much, and I think, you know, it's important to allow them to have that, you know, to be able to make school friends, to be able to have friends outside of it. And even for moms, I think it's like a perfect opportunity for moms to become friends with other moms, because you guys can relate, you both have children same age, and, you know, it's just like a nice thing as well. But anyway, the next thing would be, you know, high school friends. I personally don't really have high school friends anymore. I've realized that the high school friends that I have had and have been really close with, eventually I did fall out with them, and I have a feeling that's because girls, teenage girls, you know, we're very different. We think very differently. You know, I'm sorry if I'm generalizing. I'm sorry if that's not the case for some of you, but for me, oh my God, I was a horrible female teenager. I sometimes say to my parents, I don't know how, honestly, I don't know how they put up with me. I was very difficult as a teenager. And I think I was very, very needy. I was very, you know, that was the time that, you know, I was a bit more popular in school, and I abused that power. Let's just say that I just kind of wanted, you know, I was just like extra. And let's just say, yeah, when I think back to the kind of friends that I made then, I'm not that person anymore. I think the friends that I made during high school, I don't think they are that person anymore either. So I feel like, you know, that childhood innocence is gone, and then you're like growing up, and you kind of become, you kind of like finding your identity somewhere. And I feel like if you do have a lot of high school friends that you're still really good friends with, that's amazing. I think that says a lot about you in a positive way. Not me. I think I do have regrets. I feel like there are some people that I could have still remained friends with, but you know, I just think I was a different person, and the friends that I was with, friends with during that time, were different people as well. And we've all grown up to be very different people with very different morals, values, principles. And I think I can't imagine now thinking about all my high school friends being really close with them like I used to be, maybe. But yeah, and then you sort of go in like to uni, or you start working, and I think that's the time where you really sort of like find yourself, and I feel like that's the time where you kind of end up or starting to make lifelong friends. That's sort of the age, like I feel like your late teens to like those early 20s are like where you really, you know, invest, I think. Same thing with relationships. If you have a boyfriend, or, you know, a lot of people then end up marrying that person, you know, it's home for them, it's comfort. And I feel like it's the same thing with friendships, where you meet people and you really connect, and that's the time where you maybe start earning a bit of money because you start work, or you're at uni, you go through a lot, you move out, maybe you're living at university on campus. So I feel like you attach yourself to people because you need people around you. You need somebody, you know, that's that age, I guess. And I feel like realistically, most people that I've spoken to, most of their close friends are either from uni or during that period, whether it's work, whether it's definitely that age. Like I feel like early 20s is that age where most people have, that's when they make most of their friends and hopefully keep a lot of these friends and stuff. But anyway, just a note on this, actually, like it doesn't mean that the more friends means that you are amazing and you have such a fulfilling life and it's great. No, I mean it can be. I would just say it's always good to have a handful or less close friends. And when I say close friends, okay, distinguishing between these is like, if you have a really, really, really close friend, this is the person that you don't necessarily speak to every single day. You could, but this is the friend that if anything goes down and you don't have anyone else, like I'm talking about you single, but you know, you want to talk to somebody and cry and, you know, something, I think that's that friend. That should be that close friend that you can call and cry and expect to be there for you in so many ways. I think that's what I regard as a close friend, who you can trust and who's also loyal to you and also backs you up. Like if there's, you know, at a table, if people are talking about you, you know this person's gonna have your back, if that makes sense. I think that's what I personally regard as a close friend. Just somebody who you can trust, basically, who's loyal to you and who, you know, understands you and is empathetic towards situations or whatever. And also what I regard as a close friend is if you do get into a disagreement, if you do get into a problem, that you can actually sort it out. Like you can have a full-on confrontation, maybe be annoyed at each other for a little bit, but you can forgive each other. You can, you know, you can be close again and you can be friends again. I'm not going to contour my nose right now because I am really sweaty, so I'm going to do this right at the end when I'm done with this video and have my fan on again because I'm like dying right now. But what I do for you guys know. Yeah, so that's personally what I regard as a close friend. Then you have friends, not the close friends, but friends who you basically can have a laugh with. You meet up once in a while, you have dinner, you have drinks, or you could even invite them over to your house. You know, you and your husbands become friends and, you know, you just, I don't know, do game nights or whatever, or even potentially go on holiday together and you just have a good time. And you associate fun and laughter and good times with this friend. Doesn't mean that you have to call them and cry to them, or you have to rely on them or depend on them or have these kind of expectations. Doesn't necessarily have to be like that. You can still have that friend. So you have close friend, okay, somebody you do spend time with, but you don't sit there talking personal stuff or whatever. It's not because you don't trust them, it's because it's just unnecessary. It doesn't mean that every single person you meet you have to get close to or you have to overshare. And this is something that took me decades to learn. I'm not even joking. Every single person I met, oh my god, we would both overshare. We'd be like, oh my god, this happened to me, that happened to me, oh my god. And then the moment you know that they've been through something similar, you feel like you can relate, and then you're both just like, Mari Kotrade, you know, like you're basically completely trusting them without having spent enough time with them or without having known them long enough. Like you just kind of feel so excited just because it's all new and, you know, they're giving you all this attention, they're making you feel important because you're telling them something so deep and, you know, meaningful, and then they do that with you, and you're just like, oh my god, best friends for life, hashtag best friends. Like, but then that's great. Sometimes that works out great, but then sometimes it doesn't, because you don't necessarily have gotten to know that person enough to know if you can trust them or not trust them. Or sometimes maybe you can trust them, but you've overshared so much that you have that expectation of them just being there for you forever. And then when they don't, you then get so easily disappointed or angry or upset, and you're like, oh my god, like, they don't see me the way I see them, or they're not my best friend anymore and stuff. And yeah, that was something that I've struggled with for the longest time, having high expectations, because I give my 110%. I was gonna say 120, but then I'm like, 110 doesn't even exist, but let's just say I give my all. I give my all with every person that I meet, or I used to anyway. And I'm learning, and this has only been something that I've learned over the last few years. I'm not even joking, and this is why I wanted to do this video. And I wanted it to be structured, and I wanted to kind of, you know, plan of what I'm saying, because I made that experience of like being that person of always having high expectations, getting disappointed really easily. And I never used to like confrontation as well. Like when they get defensive, they make it about themselves, and then they kind of like completely disregard or do not validate the other person's feeling. And I think I used to be like that because I thought I was such an amazing friend. I still believe I'm such an amazing friend, and I do a lot, and I give a lot for the friends that I have. I do think that, and I spoil them rotten. That's the type of person I am. But I've learned over time that not everybody needs to have that kind of special treatment from me. Not because they don't deserve it, just because you can't give that much energy to everyone. Because if you do, then you are going to expect that from every single person. And eventually I just thought to myself, you know what? A lot of the times it's my own fault. It's my own fault for trusting them, or it's my own fault for oversharing, or it's my own fault for having those expectations, or it's my own fault for giving them so much and expecting the same or more in return. And those are all my fault. So I can't sit here and be like, oh, this person did this to me, that person. I've allowed those things to happen because of my personality, and I struggled with that for the longest time. So I'm not saying you should easily forgive and forget. I'm just saying don't like analyze and reflect, you know, with these kind of friendships and situations. But yeah, I know I kind of went off, and I'm just going to go back to those kind of friendships. So just like distinguishing, okay? So close friends, then you have the friends. Then you have acquaintances. So they're close to falling into the category of friends as well. And with acquaintances, I'm talking about, usually they fall under the category of work colleagues, okay? So they could be people at work that you have such a fantastic time with, and you hang out, you know, maybe even after work for drinks, and you guys absolutely love each other, and you guys respect each other, and you guys value this bond that you have with that person. Does not necessarily mean they are friends and you have to share personal things with them, or you have to depend or rely on them, or you have to overshare. Like, none of these are necessary with these acquaintances. You can still have such a great time, and you can still have fun with them, but those are not necessarily people you invite to your home, into your private life, or, you know, I don't know, to your birthdays or whatever it is. Like, these are people that you like, and if you see them, you have such a good time with them. Or if you're like on a project with them, or you're working with them, you have a great time with them. But you don't have to mix that with your personal life. And it doesn't mean that they're not nice people, or that there's a reason you're not doing that. But again, this is what I've learned over time of, like, I know it sounds bad, but categorizing people that you meet into these three groups personally. And that's helped me. That's helped me kind of have healthy relationships with people in each category. And again, that took me that took me decades to learn. Like in my 20s, I used to be overly sensitive, and I used to get so offended, and I used to be like, oh my God, I did so much for them, and then look what they ended up doing, and look what they did to me. That used to be my attitude. And then I would be like, okay, forget them, and I would cut them out, and then I would make a new friend, and then I would put that new friend on a pedestal, and I'd be like, oh my God, this is my best friend. And then the same thing would happen, and then I would cut that person off, and then I would find a new person. And eventually I realized, oh my God, this is very time consuming, and it takes so much effort, and it was just too much. Like I was just like, I can't keep doing this. It's just, you know, it's not just only mentally exhausting for me going through those phases, it was also mentally exhausting for the people around me, i.e. my husband. And I genuinely believe that my husband is a very, very good judge of character. So are my parents, you know. And whenever I tell them about a new friend, or I, you know, even maybe, this was in the past, okay? I'm very careful with who I bring home now, but before I used to invite people over, have them stay over at my parents' house and stuff. And I used to sometimes get this comment from my parents, or even my husband, and be like, I think you should be careful with this person. And I'd be like, what do you mean? They're amazing. No, no, no. And I would defend them with my life, okay? And then it got to the point where I'm just like, you know, when something did happen, naturally, my parents or my husband would be like, I told you so. Like, how did you not see this coming? And I'm telling you, it's so important to see the red flags. And I bet you every single person watching this who's had a fallout or a problem with somebody, I bet you have seen the red flags from the beginning. But you kind of keep giving them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm like that. I genuinely do that with anyone, whether it's work, whether it's friends, anybody that I meet. Even if I have this funny gut feeling about them and I'm like, maybe I shouldn't really get close to them, I always give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm like, no, but they're nice though. And because I base it on the one good thing that they did, and I'm just like, oh my God, I've learned from my parents to always be a very grateful person. So I try and always be like, oh, but they did this for me. I will list all the good things that they've done for me, and I'm just like, I shouldn't punish them for the one bad thing. But it's not about the bad thing. It's about your gut feeling and the red flags, and the red flags that people around you see. Okay, and this applies to relationships as well. If you find yourself a partner, people around you, if they say, honestly, listen to these people. A lot of the times, they are right. Like, learn to sort of like look at these red flags and everything as well, and sort of listen to the people around me when they say to me, I don't know about this person, or I don't know about this that person and stuff. So I try and not get so defensive, and I try and not like be the biggest advocate for that person anymore. I used to be like that, and then because I've advocated them and then somehow they let me down or something, I would then be so heartbroken and disappointed, and again, it's my own fault. It's nobody else's fault, it's my own fault. And those are things that I'm learning at this moment. So like I said, close friends, acquaintances, try that. I know this sounds so bad, but if there are people in your life, maybe do a list. You know, literally get out your pen and paper and do 3 columns and do close friends, friends, and acquaintances, and put down the names of all the people that you know. Okay, everyone. I'm talking about work colleagues, I'm talking about your closest friends. Don't put family in there. This video is just about friends, okay? Maybe I'll do another story time about family, but this is just about friends. So maybe put them in these categories, and then see and reflect, and then see, you know, balance it out and stuff. I'm not saying, you know, just because somebody you thought was a close friend ended up in the acquaintances and then you're like, I'm just gonna cut them out. Don't do that. This is another thing that I used to do, okay? This is the last bit that I'm gonna say. I used to have this toxic trait of cutting people out, okay? Like, literally, if I had a problem with somebody, I would just completely cut them out. I'll delete their phone number. I mean, yeah, I think I've even blocked people as well. Like, I do that. And, you know, because I'm just like, yep, not dealing with this, whatever. And it's really, really bad. It's bad not... I mean... First of all, it's bad for yourself because you're basically not taking responsibility. You're not okay with confrontation, or you're not wanting to deal with the problem. and you don't want basically somebody to tell you what you've done wrong in that friendship, right? So it's like, that's number one. So it's for you that you shouldn't be doing that. Number two, because you should learn something from it. Number two is you shouldn't do that to somebody else. Like, by cutting them out, it's almost like that person never gets closure. And when that person doesn't get closure, it's a horrible feeling. You don't like that feeling of not having closure, or you don't imagine how it would feel if you thought somebody was a close friend. You get yourself into a small minor disagreement, and then next minute that person cuts you out and blocks you and unfollows you and whatever. You will be like, you will literally be so taken back, and you will literally be like, but I've invested so much time and energy into this friendship, and this person's just walked away and just like cut me out. And that used to be me. I used to do that. And now, you know, especially in the last few years, I take responsibility. I like discussing things with my friends. If something's up, I easily say sorry, and I easily kind of say, let's process, let's take some time out. Why don't we revisit this? Like, why don't we get on a call, or why don't we meet up and stuff? And when I process this, and I do feel like, you know what, actually, it is not a relationship that I want to nurture anymore, the same way, I'm not saying I'm cutting them out, then that's my answer, right? Like, if I've taken time out and I'm not hurting anymore, and I just feel like, you know what, actually, this relationship does not need, I don't want to invest so much time and effort on this person anymore, then you have the answer. But then that doesn't mean you need to cut them out. You can still be in each other's lives, and you can still be friendly, you can still be civil. There are so many ways of still having that. And you might ask that question of like, but why? Like, if you don't like that person, just cut them out. I'm telling you, you suffer more than the other person if you do cut somebody out, because it's almost like you're brushing that person under the carpet. You're brushing that problem under the carpet, and because you've done that, you'll walk away into the next friendship or relationship with that same sort of attitude, and then it will again become this vicious cycle of you doing this over and over and over again, and you'll be left with so much PTSD. I'm not even joking, and I feel like it's not worth it. Why are you doing this to yourself? Why are you, you know? And we recently, from my birthday trip as well, which by the way was amazing and everyone got on so well, I did have anxiety because there were so many different groups and age groups as well. Because I thought, what if they don't get along? You know, there's different personalities, you know, how, you know, it's a large crowd, obviously it's loads of girls, you know, sometimes that can be problematic. Not trying to be rude, I'm being very honest. But they all got on so well, and I was so proud that I've come to that age where I've been attracting the same or similar kind of vibe people. So the people that I have who are solid and consistent in my life now are people who have similar attitudes and similar thinking, similar morals, similar values, principles to me. In terms of making new friends as well, again, it's vibes. Personally, you know, and this could be so contradictory, and maybe people might have their own opinions about what I'm about to say. If you meet somebody for the first time, and that the first thing that person does is come and talk badly about another person, it could be anybody, okay? If they come and the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes of the conversation is them just talking negatively or gossiping about someone else, for me, that's a major red flag. And for me, that means if you're doing this to me when you've just met me, I know you're going to be doing that about me to other people as well. And I firmly believe in that. And every single time in the past, however, I used to actually, I think naturally girls, they, again, please, I'm not generalizing, please don't be offended, but you know, sometimes some girls, they become friends on the basis of that, just because they all dislike some person, or they all end up gossiping together about something, and they feel like that's something that they are relating to each other too. Does that make sense? And the same thing has happened with friends who I am, you know, good friends with. I'm not talking about the close friends, okay? My close friends are on another league, in another category. But the friends that I have, if after a while I notice that they're constantly talking about somebody, or they're constantly being negative about people, my husband and I, we sort of start distancing ourselves, and we don't do dinner dates with them anymore. We don't invite them over to the house anymore because we just don't want that kind of energy around us. And energy is so important. I know people who believe in God don't really talk about manifestation or energies. They don't like those words. They prefer saying but God and praying to God and God did this. I do, and I like to use both because I believe in both. I believe in God, but I also believe in energies and vibrations, and maybe that's why I like crystals as well. But you know, anyway, that's a different topic, another story time. But it is so important who you have around you, because these people do influence your thoughts. And if you have negative people around you, I'm telling you, they're never going to be happy for you. If you're progressing in life or you're doing something amazing in life, it's never going to happen. I'm talking and not doing my makeup. I was going to do my eyeliner as well, and this video ended up being a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I'm going to end it here. I could go on and on and on about this topic. I'm just saying, you know, to summarize, friendships can be super beautiful or very hurtful and painful. I understand that. I've been through all of it. I would just say, you know, maybe see if you can let go of past traumas, past hurts and betrayal. You know, see if you can talk about it to people, and heal from it. Even if you have to go to therapy just to talk about an ex-friend, that's acceptable and that's absolutely okay, and you should, because that, you know, you just making friends with somebody can also, like, that nurturing or whatever, that bond, it's similar attributes, it's similar characteristics, similar things that you're going to be using towards meeting a partner as well, or things you're going to teach your children and stuff. So I feel like it's the basis. Relationships, love, friendships, those are all things that they shape you into who you are. So I think healing is so important if you do feel really bitter and angry about things that have happened to you in the past. I also believe in self-reflection. I do believe that you should sit down and look at yourself and be like, okay, how could I have handled this situation? Or why does this keep happening to me? If it's repetitively happening to me, then it means that I must have done something too, or there's things that I need to change about myself. I also think don't always talk to people who are biased. If they love you and they're constantly like, oh, how dare that person do this to you? Do you know how amazing you are? No. Those are not the right kind of people to go to, because they're just going to be like your advocates, but they're never going to teach you anything and stuff. So this is where I love my husband and my parents, because, I mean, my husband can be biased because he loves me and he's always like Team Vithya, but at the same time, he is one of those people to say to me, yeah, but don't you think you shouldn't have done this, or you shouldn't have said this? And my parents are absolutely those people who will, if I tell them a story about something that's happened between me and my friend, my parents are the first people to be like, why, what did you do? And as a teenager or in my early 20s, I used to get really upset about that. I'm just like, why do you not support me? Like, why are you not on my side? But now I'm so grateful because I've learned so much by them being like that. And it's sad when I see other people who do talk to their parents or their partners and they're all that person's team and they're like, no, you're always right, everyone else is wrong. And that's sad because you don't learn anything from it, and you're going to teach your children that same kind of attitude, and then those kids are going to grow up always thinking it's somebody else's fault. It's never their fault, and they're never going to take responsibility for their actions, right? I do feel really, really blessed with the people that I have now in my life, and they've you know, besides one or two new friends, everyone else has been consistent in my life for decades. Okay, these are not like, yeah, and I think I've gotten to that stage now where, you know, every single friend from that birthday, I've had my fallouts with, I've had my confrontations with, I've had my arguments with, and I think that that's how friendship should be, and that's so important that you discuss things, whether it's good or bad. Otherwise, you're not friends. If it's always just like, you know, hunky-dory, like it can't be like that. You know, that's not real life. You are gonna dislike things about people, and I'm pretty sure out of the friends and the close friends that I have, they probably hate certain things about me and probably dislike certain things about me, and But then they're never going to address that because they probably like my good things more than the bad things. So for them, they weigh out the option and they're just like, but you're amazing. Who cares about those small, stupid things about you? Even with my faults and my negative aspects or anything bad about me, I would want to be loved for those as well, basically. So anyway, oh my God, I need to stop this now. Thank you so much for watching this video. I didn't even get to finish my makeup. I'm going to do that with the fan on now, but I would love, love, love some feedback. Hopefully this video was inspiring. Please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and tell your friends and family about these story times. I want to be that older sister who just shares these life experiences, and I really want the world to be a better place, and I really hope that by people watching these kind of stories that they can maybe not make the mistakes that I've made growing up. Mwah.